don't know, perhaps this president looks at the military much like he does numbers in a budget and does double accounting or something. I don't know. But at the end of the day, and I'll close this segment on this, it's been pointed out all day today and yesterday that, in fact, right now we do not have fewer horses and bayonets than we did in 1916, 1917. We, in fact, have more. And someone else pointed out that prior to 1917, we had an all-volunteer military. We didn't instill the draft until 1917. So if you compare the pre-1917 military, the number of horses and bayonets then, to the current all-volunteer military and the number of horses and bayonets, they're roughly the same. So, once again, Mr. Commander-in-Chief, you apparently really don't quite understand that about which you are speaking. Well, while I collect myself once more, I will segue. Take a listen to this. Be back on the other side. Stick with us here on the Palmetto Conservative Show. I'm your host, Jim Lee, here on the Conservative Broadcast Media Network.
Feeling lonely this holiday season?
Looking for little human interaction?
Do you want to feel contact in certain special places?
Then why not go through security at an airport?
The TSA.
TSA agents are ready and standing by to give you a little something extra to feel thankful about this holiday season.
The TSA.
What are you waiting for? I want to check under your testicles.
Spending time with a TSA agent couldn't be easier. Simply book a flight departing from any American airport. When selected for a full body scanner, say no. You'll be pulled aside by a TSA agent, and that's when the fun begins. And you never know who your agent will be.
It could be me.
Or me. Or even me.
But it's probably gonna be us. Take off your damn shoes.
The TSA. It's our business to touch yours.
Welcome to the Bureau of Womanhood Conformity. Independent thoughts are considered subversive because all must agree with our leader.
When it comes to women, preventive care should include coverage of contraceptive services such as birth control.
You see, if you don't believe government should pay for your birth control, you're not a real woman. Womanhood denied. If you refuse to accept that pregnancy is a punishment, you're denied as well.
I don't want them punished with a baby.
If you don't believe that abortions should be allowed for any reason, if you don't believe in aborting a child for being the wrong gender, and if you don't believe that stay-at-home mothers aren't real workers, you are not a real conformed woman.
His wife has actually never worked a day in her life. His wife has actually never worked a day in her life.
Finally, for your safety, if you oppose mandatory government health care, you will die.
They will be voting to say that women can die on the floor.
These standards and regulations were formed after our glorious victory in the war on women. Thank you for your cooperation and your conformity.
His board is bad enough here, and I approve this message. With flu season upon us, Bullwinkle failed to order tissues. He told us to wipe our noses on our sleeves. Bullwinkle said he was hungry, but then he ate a large meal and claimed he wasn't hungry anymore. Which is it, Mr. Moose? Bullwinkle promised to create new jobs. Then why does he tie his own shoes? I don't have any shoes. Couldn't he hire someone to do it for him? He sent jobs overseas, including the job of sending jobs overseas. He's kept wages down and left the toilet seat up.
No,
He knows the way to San Jose, so why won't he tell us what it is? He can't tell the difference between one thing and another. He calls jeans dungarees. His tennis game is an embarrassment. He can't read Latin. He smells like cheese. Dogs think he's scary. Would you trust Bullwinkle to defend us from giant mechanical mice?
My message is clear. Tuna fish, leg warmers, mastodon.
You think that's clear message? Sounds like more political double talk from Moose. I'm Boris Bedinoff. Of course you can trust me. Huh? Oh. Also, I like children and puppy dogs. Paid for by Bad Enough is Good Enough. Be done now? Oh, boy. Get me out of here.
Welcome back into the Palmetto Conservative Show. I'm your host, Jim Lee. Hopefully you're enjoying the swing of ads we have going on in here this evening. If there wasn't a glimmer of truth in that, it wouldn't be funny. Before I segue on to the next topic, I do want to go back to the on horses and bayonets rant. You know, one of the things that consistently frustrates me about all politicians, and in particular this president, who, in my view, has demonstrated time and time again he couldn't give a rip about the military or veterans, but the way in which he trots out veterans when trying to talk about the military. Now, let me be perfectly clear, lest anyone jump to conclusions. And I ask you not to jump. Come back from the ledge. Hold on. Our veterans deserve the finest in care and support, because they, at one time, signed a contract, payment in full, with their lives to defend this country. But in my mind, our veterans and our active defense, our constitutional responsibility the federal government has, the number one responsibility, the number one enumerated responsibility, is to defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. When you talk about the budget, veterans and defense are two mutually exclusive items. Both of the highest priority. But they are mutually exclusive and should not be used as pawns to play one against the other. We should never say we cannot afford to provide the proper equipment and materials to our active fighting force because we need to hold back resources to take care of our worthy veterans. And conversely, we should never say we cannot provide as we should for our veterans because we have to provide for our active military. And I'm sick and tired of politicians, and in this particular instance, one of the two politicians, the incumbent, constantly traipsing out veterans to try and make his case when it comes to defense cuts. That's my opinion. You're welcome to it. But now, let's put our bayonets back into their sleeves. Let's put the horses back in the barn for now. I can't promise you they won't come out again here in the next segment or even the next hour of the Palmetto Conservative Show, but we move on. Today, Joe Biden, you may think this is a minor gaffe, but when you look at the compendium of gaffes from Vice President Biden, you've got to ask yourself a question.
I mean, literally, ladies and gentlemen, This is a guy who's running all the ads here in Iowa saying that he's going to get tough on China.
There's only one problem. The guy he's talking about is Governor Romney. And the ads he's talking about are running in Ohio, where Vice President Biden was speaking, but telling people that he's running the ads in Iowa. Listen to that again.
I mean, literally. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a guy who's running all the ads here in Iowa saying that he's going to get tough on China. I've had the great privilege of being in this state now. I think it's my 25th event. I'm not sure, but I've been all over the state.
Yes, Joe. Which state is it you've been all over? Is it the Buckeye State or the Hawkeye State? And please don't anybody else tee that question up to Vice President Biden, because that's too many eyes for him to choose from. You know, you've got to ask yourself the question, is this guy showing early signs of senility? Now, there's some that would think that I'm being petty and just picking on Joe Biden, but, you know, Joe Biden is quick to tell you that he is the most intelligent man in the Democrat Party. Joe likes to let people know that he's the most intelligent guy in the room. But as for me, I'm not so sure. And then, when it comes to arrogance, Hillary Clinton demonstrated a certain degree of hubris and arrogance today when she went off on a rant and in her condescending way derided those who were asking legitimate questions about the whole Benghazi Gate thing and, who knew what when and why were you saying things that now clearly appear to be inaccurate, to be generous. And her going off half-cocked and complaining to people and saying that they were going off half-cocked on partial information, and then the right thing to do is to step back and take time and evaluate all the information. Madam Secretary of State, I don't know what world it is you live in, but leaders throughout this country, business leaders, organizational leaders all over, are constantly challenged with having to make decisions and to evaluate less than perfect information. And based on what information we now know was readily available, you don't have to be Edward R. Murrow, Walter Cronkite, Drudge, or a Rhodes Scholar, which I realize your husband thinks he's a Rhodes Scholar. He was selected but never completed the program, but I digress. To be able to look at the patently obvious and draw a conclusion that what you've been passing out as analysis up to this point simply doesn't pass the smell test. And if based on the volume of data that you had within mere moments of the attack on the consulate in Benghazi, to not be able to conclude that it was an out-and-out terrorist attack, maybe we don't know precisely which terrorists, but it surely wasn't a spontaneous demonstration that got a little out of hand over some stupid, poorly produced movie that might have been offensive, dare I say it, to the Muslim world. So, Miss Clinton, you go on my list of people who have offended me this week. I throw Joe Biden in just for fun. Moving along. Back to the points that I was making in the opening segment when John McEnroe